Okay, we are back for another video. Now this is a very special video for July, and before you go typing this in the comments, which I'm sure many of you have already done, yes, I realize this is being done about a month early, but I'm going to be pretty busy these next couple of months, so I figured for my video for July, I would do this now. Now what am I talking about, you may ask? Well, the reason this video is so special is because we are doing yet another anniversary for an operating system. Now before we talk about the operating system, let's talk about what Microsoft had done up to this point. Let's flash back a little bit. We're going to go back to the year 2001. And at this point, the two current operating systems, the consumer OS was Windows Millennium Edition, or Windows ME for short. And basically that was based on the Windows 9X kernel, so it was very similar to Windows 95 and 98. It did not support NTFS. You couldn't do permissions, you couldn't, do disk quotas, you couldn't do anything like that. And Windows ME was pretty much despised by a lot of end users. Many people reported crashes, compatibility problems, just instability, and many believed that Windows ME was rushed to the market. The business operating system that Microsoft had out at the time was Windows 2000, which was far more stable than Windows Millennium Edition, and while it wasn't really widely adopted, it was definitely a lot better than Millennium Edition. And I remember my dad, his main computer, he had a computer that he had upgraded to Windows ME on, but then returned Windows ME and exchanged it for a copy of Windows 2000 and Windows 2000 worked a heck of a lot better on the computer he had it on. It was a Gateway 2000. Don't remember the exact model number because I was a little kid, but yeah, I mean he ran Windows 2000 on it for a while. And he didn't let Windows 2000 go for a few years. But then Microsoft started developing a new project, actually two new projects, codenamed Odyssey and Neptune. And I don't remember exactly which one was going to be which, but one of them was supposed to be the next consumer release, the other one was supposed to be the next business release. But during that time, Microsoft said, hey, what if for the next version of Windows, we just merge these two projects together and bring the NT kernel to everybody? Because Microsoft did state that Windows Millennium would have been the last Windows 9X operating system, despite them saying that about Windows 98 SE. Well, the two projects were merged, and they became known as Windows Whistler. And Windows Whistler evolved over time and turned into an operating system known as Windows Experience, or Windows XP for short. And that, my friends, is what we are going to be doing today. We are going to be celebrating the 20th anniversary of Microsoft Windows XP. Now, what am I going to be doing for this installation, commemoration, celebration? Well, I have just the laptop to do it on because I went to the thrift store over the weekend and I found this. A Dell Latitude C600, and as you can see by the price sticker, I paid $20 plus tax for this laptop. I did not get the power adapter, so I did have to order one, and I did have to rush order one, but fortunately it got here in time. And yeah, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be installing Windows XP on this laptop. But first, let's take a tour of the laptop before we get started. So, let me bring it up to the camera here. So on the front we have two hot swappable bays. This is the battery here, which amazingly does still hold a charge. I did boot this up off camera, and the reason I do that is because a lot of times laptops I find at the thrift stores don't have the hard drives wiped, and this was no exception. And it had a picture of a lady and her baby on it. So yeah, I had to change that because I don't want to be exposing personal information. Here's the DVD drive. Yes, this did come with a DVD drive, which is pretty amazing considering this laptop was built in 2002. DVD drives were not cheap back then, so whoever bought this laptop back then definitely paid top dollar for it. On the right-hand side, we have the right speaker here, IRDA infrared TRS jacks for headphone in and microphone in, 56K modem, 10100 Ethernet, S-video output, cooling vent here. On the back, we have an RS-232 serial port, DB25 parallel, docking station connector here, exhaust fan here, PS2 keyboard mouse input port, USB 1.1 port here, and VGA out with the screws. Unfortunately, one of the nuts is missing, but you can find replacements pretty cheap for a pretty cheap price. And of course, the DC power input. On the left-hand side, we have two PCMCIA card slots, one of which is occupied by this Orinoco, I guess is how you pronounce this company name, wireless card. It is an 802.11b card, so unfortunately not going to be able to use it on my modern Wi-Fi network because who uses 802.11b anymore? And plus it only supports up to WEP encryption, which I am not even going to even talk about dumping the security on my router down to WEP. Here's where the hard drive goes. There's a 20 gigabyte hard drive in there, IBM TravelStar hard drive, Kensington lock, and of course the left speaker. Go ahead and open it up. And one thing you will notice is the screen hinge is very weak. As you can see, the screen sort of flops down if you push the LCD panel too far back. So that was probably one of the reasons this laptop was given up. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Actually, that's not going to pick it up. So let me bring it closer to the camera. So here we have the nice 10 keyless QWERTY keyboard, very standard Dell stuff. Power button, information button. We got a track point right here, which has that cat's tongue track point. Thankfully, the buttons don't have that much wear. Here's the touchpad. Again, not that much wear on the touchpad or buttons. Stickers for Intel Pentium 3, designed for Windows XP. Then here's the bottom. We're missing a COA, which is one of the reasons I bought a certain item, which you'll see in just a moment. And while I would boot this up and show you what operating system is already on here, the problem with that is it's Windows. Just to let you know, it's Windows XP Pro, and it is extremely slow, and there's all this bloatware. There's a copy of Office 2003 on there, but this computer did belong because they left all their personal files on there, which you know what I'm gonna say, wipe your freaking hard drive. But anyways, yeah, so there were a bunch of personal files on there, and honestly, I just don't feel like showing them because they were all over the desktop, they were all over in my documents, and so I'd rather just do the right thing as any good citizen would do. We're just going to wipe the drive and install a copy of Windows XP Professional on it. Now this is a brand new sealed OEM copy of Windows XP Pro that I got on eBay for about 50 bucks. But I think this might be a bootleg. And here's why I say that. Take a look down here. That start button is awfully it's very low quality, and plus the little taskbar here is raised. It should be more towards the bottom, but it's raised up a little bit. That's sort of that. I didn't notice any spelling errors on here, and then take a look at the certificate of authenticity. There are outright holes in it. For some reason, that just doesn't look legitimate to me. And if we take a look at the CD, notice it might be a little hard to see on the camera, but notice how the Windows logo in the hologram is sort of pixelated. So this indeed could be a bootleg copy, but we'll find out momentarily. Anyways, we're going to be installing this copy of Windows XP on this laptop. Now this already has Windows XP Professional, and normally when I install Windows XP on a computer, I use my corporate license for XP Pro because, yes, I do have a corporate copy, which is a volume license, and the big draw to corporate copies is that they do not require activation, which that was actually a feature introduced in Windows XP, is Windows Product Activation. Basically what activation does, if you're curious, is it prevents the installation of the software on more basically what it does is it checks to see if the key is blacklisted. That's what it does. It checks your product key and makes sure that it's not blocked by Microsoft or hasn't been used the maximum amount of times it's allowed to be used. So yeah, that's basically what product activation does. It is able to be circumvented, and in Windows XP especially, it's easy to circumvent. But We're also, yes, I will be attempting activation of this product, so we will see if this key is indeed valid or not. Anyways, enough chit-chat. Let's get to the unboxing of Windows XP and the installation commemoration. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and break this seal. This copy of Windows XP has never been opened. So here we go. It's just been sitting here. Now this is Service Pack 3. This does include Service Pack 3. And I was a little disconcerted by that because I did originally want to install XP RTM because the Service Packs do add functionality to XP, but you can't always get what you want. So, and it's too late now. Ooh, you know what? I think this is indeed a bootleg copy. You know why? Because I'm pressing my finger here, it feels like there's a label stuck on the disc. I think this is a bootleg. But you know what? We're going to find out together if this is a bootleg or not. Anyways, let's go ahead and boot the computer up. I'm going to go ahead and boot into setup here. Put our XP disk in the drive. Alright, here's the setup here. Yes, I did set the date and time. This does use a proprietary CMOS battery, so unfortunately it will not be able to be swapped out. But yeah, if you want to take a look, we've got an 850 megahertz Pentium 3, 256 megs of RAM, ATI M3 video card with 8 megabytes of VRAM, CD DVD-RW combo drive. Go to the next page here, which this is basically the boot menu page. Thankfully, there's docking connections here, diskette configurations, processor serial number. This was something unique to the Pentium 3. We have this is for the parallel port. Battery status. Amazingly, the battery does still hold a charge. I'm actually going to turn the brightness up a little bit. Just so you guys can kind of see that. Thankfully, no passwords have been set. We're going to save our changes. We're going to reboot. We're going to install us some XP. Oops. Yeah, did not give me the option to boot off the CD, so let me try that again. Let's try again. Go to the boot menu here. While we're waiting, we'll take a look at the Windows XP manual that comes with it. Oh wow, look at the quality of that. I think this is most definitely a bootleg. Yeah. I'm not going to bother to read all this stuff, but I think that this is probably a bootleg copy. Anyways, we're going to boot off the CD. And there we go. Press any key to boot from CD. This camera, I swear, it cannot focus. It can't focus on anything. If I zoom in, it just refuses to focus at all. So I am going to be getting a new camera pretty soon. I've been doing some research, and I'm definitely going to be replacing this hunk of crap because this camera is just absolutely horrendous. And I cleaned the lens like 3 times and it still will not focus on anything. There we go. So yeah, this is the real experience. I guess you could say it's, well, I just said the name of the operating system. It's the real experience because that's what XP stands for, is experience. So basically while we're waiting for this, let's talk a little bit about Windows XP and what it introduced versus Windows 2000 and Windows Millennium Edition. Windows XP is basically a combination of Windows 2000 and Windows Me. It improved stuff like Windows Movie Maker and System Restore, and it included basically the biggest change was the UI. It introduced the Luna theme, which was unlike any version of Windows you saw prior to XP, and basically it just revamped Windows. The Start menu was redesigned, and it was a real upgrade for someone coming from, say, Windows 98 or Millennium or 2K. I actually, XP was really the first operating system I really got into. Even though I used Windows Me on my first computer came with Windows Me, XP was preloaded on my second computer, my Dell Dimension 4600C, and yeah, and I remember I have some very pleasant memories of XP Home Edition and playing my games on there and just being blown away by the UI changes, the Start menu, and all these cool features that were introduced in Windows XP. So I'll zoom out here, and hopefully the damn camera will focus. I swear, this camera, like I said, it just refuses to focus on anything. Unless there's text on the screen, like right now. Alright, welcome to setup. Alright, so we're going to hit enter to continue. We totally read that agreement. And it's going to tell us, it should tell us that there's a previous version of Windows on here. Yep, there it is. It tells us that we can repair it, but we're going to continue installing a fresh copy of Windows. We are going to delete this partition, delete Enter L. We're going to format using NTFS. We're going to do a quick format just for the sake of the video. Although normally I would, on a computer like this where there's a lot of personal data left, I would recommend doing a full format. For this video, we're just going to do a quick format because this laptop is probably going to be a keeper for me because it has that ATI video card, and I'm going to be trying some of my old games on this computer just to see how well they run, so stay tuned for that. Alright, so we've gotten to the part of setup where it copies the files to the hard disk. So I'm going to go ahead and let this run, and I will come back when we are in the GUI portion of setup. And we have reached the GUI portion of setup. So yeah, basically copying files, you didn't miss much. Let me zoom out a little bit more. There we go. An exciting new look. Yeah, as if... Now, be honest with me. How many times have you installed Windows XP and seen this screen? Come on, be honest. Installation failed. Shit. It's having problems reading the disk. Let me try reseating the disk here. Yeah, it's having problems reading the disk. But there is disk activity, though. Yeah, it's not reading the disk correctly. Well, let me grab my external optical drive and we'll be right back. Alright, I got my external optical drive hooked up, so we're going to see if it can read from the external drive. Because apparently the internal drive is having issues, which is to be expected for a laptop this old. But the nice thing about setup here is, unlike Windows Vista and later, where it would just say installation failed and you'd have to restart the entire setup. The nice thing about XP is you don't have to do that. You can literally just it'll restart setup. Okay, so now it's asking for the disk, so it's not able to read the external optical drive. This is a problem. This is a problem. We may have a problem here. Okay, I'm going to insert the disk into the internal drive. Okay, I just put the CD in the internal drive. It is spinning up. Okay, it's reading the disk. Forgot it doesn't have the drivers for the external drive. Yeah, it's having trouble reading the disk. The problem is I don't have a PCMCIA external optical drive, so that's a problem. Because this does not have this computer does have a USB port, but it's USB 1.1. So that's probably why the external optical drive doesn't work. That's a problem. But it's definitely having a problem reading the disk. Well, I may need to get a new drive for this computer. I don't understand what was wrong, though. That's the thing. Because it read the disk just fine in the command line portion of setup. So I'm not sure why it's having problems reading the disk. Because when it failed before, it just said there was a disk read error. It said it could not read the disk. But this is a brand new disk, so I'm not sure why there was a disk read error. And I'm putting the disk back in. Okay, it's spinning up. It's still having problems reading the disk. I'm not sure what the problem is. I know this drive is not bad. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here. It's not able to read the disk all of a sudden. And in the setup log, it said it could not read the disk. It just said that there was a disk read error. And it said to try cleaning the disk, but this disk cannot be dirty. I mean, there's no way. This disk is perfectly clean. It's never been touched on the bottom. It hasn't been scratched. And so I think but the weird thing is this drive was working fine to copy the files. So I'm not sure what's going on here, and I can't use my external drive because it doesn't have the drivers for it. But there is disk activity. That's the weird thing about this. There is disk activity. Yeah, you cannot install Windows because a disk read error has occurred. Okay, so change of plans. I keep getting an error saying I cannot install Windows because the disk could not be read. So I'm not sure why it's giving me a disk read error though, because this drive I know works perfectly fine. So what I'm doing is I'm now using my corporate copy. I'm going to recopy all the setup files, and we're going to try using my corporate copy and see if that installs okay. If that works, then we'll go ahead and continue with the installation, but if it doesn't, we may have to replace the optical drive in this computer. And we are back, and would you look at that, it's actually installing. So I guess that disk that we had before was bad. Doesn't surprise me because it looked like a bootleg, and you know what, just because that disk couldn't be installed, I'm going to say it is a bootleg. Because this is my corporate copy, and as you can see, this one's working this disk is working no problem. I copied all the setup files back over to the hard drive, and this disk is working without issue. So, well, unfortunately, I guess you won't be able to see me activating after 20 years, but you know what? Doesn't matter. I actually now have to drive to Connecticut for work, so unfortunately, I have to leave like right now because literally it's 10:20. I had a doctor's appointment today, and then of course my boss says, "Oh, by the way, I need you to drive up to Hartford, Connecticut." So I'm going to have to continue this video tomorrow when I return from Connecticut. But I promise you, I'll let this run. I'll just leave this running and pray for no power outages, and we'll go from there. And before I leave for Hartford, I do know that this is indeed a bootleg disk, because look at this. That's not supposed to happen with a genuine Microsoft disk. So yep, this copy of XP is bogus. So I think I'm going to be getting my money back for this copy. It's funny, when in a previous video I said that nothing ever goes wrong on my channel. Well, for the first time, something actually went wrong. We actually had a bogus disk. This is what happens when you buy Windows on eBay, people. You have a chance of getting bootleg software, which this CD was no exception, because I'm using my corporate license, my corporate disk, and it is working without any problems. Let's see if it detected. Yeah, it did detect my network adapter. Look at that. We will not be joining a domain. Alright, cool. Well, it looks like it got some of the drivers, which is good, so that makes it less of a hassle for me to install drivers, but I have to leave for Connecticut. So, when I return from Hartford, hopefully we will be at the out-of-box experience, and I'll be able to talk a little bit more about the operating system. We probably won't get to hear the music, but doesn't really matter. Anyways, Hartford, here I come. Alright, so I'm in Hartford, and I'm in the bathroom of my hotel room, but I brought a legitimate Windows XP CD and the Counterfeit CD with me, and my camera, of course. And I just wanted to show you how you can spot a bogus disk. The first one, I think I already showed this, but on the bogus disk, there was this label stuck on the disk. If you notice on this disk, the genuine disk, there is no label when I press my finger up against the edge. That's not a label. Also, the official disk has more silver space than the bogus disk. I also noticed on the genuine disc, I don't know how well you guys can see that, but that Windows logo is perfectly symmetrical, whereas on the Bogus disc, it looks like it was very poorly printed. So I just decided I'd make this quick little edit into the video just to show how you can spot a bogus Microsoft disc. This is what Microsoft considers a high-grade counterfeit. So obviously I'm probably not going to be able to get my money back for this copy, this bogus copy, but it makes for great video content though. So anyways, when I get back to my house to New Jersey tomorrow, I'll go ahead and record the rest and see what we can get on that computer. So anyways, peace out for now. So I'm back from Connecticut. And I had a good time, don't worry. I did not have a bad time like Thumper the ski instructor would say. And, well, I actually did start recording the out-of-box experience, but then for whatever reason, my camera stopped recording, and I didn't even notice it. So most of the footage of me setting up the computer and installing the applications is now lost to the sands of time. Fortunately, though, I was able to get Windows installed, and as you probably saw in the last clip, the disk that I got from eBay, the copy of Windows XP, was what Microsoft calls a high-grade counterfeit, because it was the disk was not legitimate. It was actually a bootleg copy of XP. So I think I showed the product key on camera. I'd have to go back through the tapes and just see if I showed that product key. But if any of you want to try activating that product key, be my guest, because I have no use for it, because I use a corporate copy of XP which doesn't require activation. Anyways, I don't think I could ever get tired of hearing that startup sound. Anyways, here we are on the desktop of Windows XP, and yes, it did get the drivers for the wireless and Ethernet controllers right out of the box. The only drivers I had to install were the video card and the audio drivers. So here it is 20 years later, 2001 to 2021, Windows XP Professional, running on a Dell Latitude C600. So really, Windows XP was a major step up especially from Windows 9X. I mean, and even Windows 2000, because it basically, the way I see XP, I see it as a combination of Windows Millennium and Windows 2000 merged into one another to make XP. Not only did it introduce the Luna theme, but it also improved features like System Restore, Windows Movie Maker, the Help and Support Center, the list goes on and on. It included Internet Explorer 6 by default. You could upgrade it all the way to Internet Explorer 8. Windows Media Player started at version 8, can be upgraded to version 9. And really, Windows XP introduced built-in wireless support. There's a lot of features that were introduced in Windows XP, and Windows XP was widely used up until, and some ATMs still run XP embedded. So, and Windows XP is a memorable OS to me, obviously, because my Dell Dimension 4600C shipped with XP Home Edition, and I used XP up until 2009 when I started using Vista, and then not long after that I switched to Windows 7, and then from there to Windows 8, and then when Windows 10 came out I switched to the Mac. But now I'm curious because I actually did buy a new PC to upgrade to Windows 11, so when that comes out that'll be an interesting video. But today we're here to talk about XP. Yes, this is being recorded a day later actually. Today is July 2nd, 2021. So let's go ahead and do something a little classic here. Yep. The Windows XP Tour. Take it away, narrator.
Windows XP from Microsoft, the new version of Windows that brings your PC to life. Experience the best. Experience Windows XP. Best for business. Windows XP Professional shines as a business operating system. Get more work done faster, easier, anytime, anywhere. Safe and easy personal computing. Thanks to Windows XP, personal computing just got a whole lot easier and more fun. Unlock the world of digital media. Windows XP is your ticket to exciting digital media at home and on the internet. The connected home and office. Get connected. Windows XP makes it easy to share and link computers. See for yourself how easy Windows XP is to use. Take this brief tour. To begin the tour, click any selection.
So normally I would do the tour, but because my camera battery is getting low and we don't really have time, I'll show you a little Easter egg. If you right click, you can see this is using Macromedia Flash Player 5.0. Oh, and apparently it already started playing the tour. We're going to go ahead next out of the tour because we don't have time to go through the whole tour. It literally takes like half an hour to get through, and I don't want to spend half an hour just having you guys listen to that. I don't even know how well you could hear it. But we'll go into System Properties here. And as you can see, zoom in. There's your Windows XP Professional, Service Pack 3, registered to me, of course. We got all the drivers accounted for. So the last thing we'll do to celebrate Windows, to finish off this installation commemoration celebration, is I'm going to fire up a game that I used to play when I was a kid, and that game is Ultimate Ride Disney's Coaster. Yep, used to play this game all the time along with Roller Coaster Tycoon and SimCity 3000 when I was a kid. Then later I got Ultimate Ride Coaster Deluxe. I almost said Roller Coaster Tycoon Deluxe. Now, I never had that game, but I did have the deluxe version of this game. I'll pick a coaster here. How about Space Mountain Paris, which I used to, as a kid, I called it Space Mountain Pears. Oh no, it's doing this again. Yeah, so sometimes, basically, this is something wrong. I don't know if this is something wrong with the game or something wrong with the graphics card, but as you can see, there's no picture. So, it's just nothing. Even if I go into the builder, there's nothing. Let me get out of the way of the camera here. Now I can barely see the LCD panel. Good job, good going, me. What did I do to fix this last time? I think I went into grid or something like that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is a glitch that I found. So if I go into the grid environment, it works perfectly fine. Well, whatever. We'll just ride this ride and see what the hell happens. So here we go. The frame rate's a little choppy. This camera, I swear, it will not focus on anything. Like I said, I need a new camera. So as you can see, we're getting a little bit of lag here, but not too terrible. This is only an ATI Mobility Radeon 8 megabyte video card. So, and that's the minimum. That's like it just barely meets the minimum requirements for this game. So. Yeah, I played this on Intel Springdale video, and even that was better than this. So. And yes, I used to mimic the sound effects when I was a kid. Yes, I know I was one messed up child. It's actually not running too poorly, but the frame rate could be a little bit better. And obviously the draw distance isn't great, but there you go. So, there we go. Quick gameplay of Ultimate Ride Disney's Coaster. Anyways, I think that'll wrap up our installation commemoration for Windows XP. Windows XP was pretty much the first operating system even though Windows 95 was technically the first operating system I ever used, the first operating system that came with my computer was with my second computer was XP, And we did try to put XP on my old Windows Me computer that we downgraded to 98, but it just didn't meet the system requirements. So, but my second computer was a Dell Dimension 4600C. It came preloaded with Windows XP Home Edition, and man, I spent days on that computer. So, happy anniversary, Windows XP. Stay strong, stay what am I trying to say? Stay safe, as if it can get you-know-what. But anyways, whatever. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for this video. So, like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more. I'll see you guys later. Happy birthday, Windows XP. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. So to end off this video, don't worry, I will get a I have ordered a legitimate copy of Windows XP, and I verified it's a genuine copy. I will be doing a redo of this video so we can actually install a genuine copy of Windows XP on the Dell Latitude C600. Right now I'm currently working on another laptop, but I expect that to be done by August, so hopefully, and the good thing is I'm not going to be that busy in August, so I will have time to do a proper 20th anniversary video for Windows XP. But lesson learned here, if you happen to buy Windows, well, any version of Windows for that matter, on eBay, be careful of what you get. Because I already showed how to spot a counterfeit disk, but I also found out about this counterfeit COA, which I already showed the product key, but again, if you want the product key, pause it and it's yours. It's probably a stolen MSDN key that won't activate anyways, but you're free to waste your time as you please. But this COA, there should not be outright holes in it. They should be more thin. You shouldn't be able to see this strip in the middle as well as you can. So, plus, look at the start button. That's very low quality printing, and so yeah, and it's funny because it's actually a federal offense to ship counterfeit products in the mail. So yes, just in case you started already typing this in the comments, yes, I did get a refund for this. I contacted eBay and the seller never responded, and so I got my money back for this counterfeit copy of XP. I did order a genuine copy of XP Home Edition, so we will be installing it on that laptop there to do a proper 20th anniversary video. So for this will be July's video, basically just to say, be conscientious when buying Windows on eBay. If it looks too good to be true, it is. Anyways, that's it for real this time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.